Hello, everybody. Welcome to pre-Valentine's Day show, or not really. None of us are participating in it, really. So,
Dead cat day for me.
so I mean, there's people that I know that would rather just like eat there with some mac and cheese. We'll just call it Mac and Cheese Day, because that's what we're doing here on Tuesday. But everybody, welcome to pre Mac and Cheese Day on this Friday. And I know some of you out there are probably going to be watching the Super Bowl on Sunday, mostly because you're into the commercials, because this is basically Christmas for commercials. It's the only time commercials are accepted in society. Like, that's the only time that they'll actually watch the commercials more than the football game, because most people don't want to see men grab each other and in provocative ways, even though that's not really what they're doing. Yes, Mr. L, it is these people, as the title suggests. I put the title as Ben Shapiro versus Steven Crowder, as we called him previously. Cold Feet, Mr. Cold Feet here. Um,
Hi,
this,
Mr. L. I've been missing you.
Hello.
all right, so we might as well, and we got some other topic about a teacher that Soph was talking about to us in the pre-show, so we'll talk about that as well. So, and probably some other stuff that comes up along the same lines, because I totally forgot. Oh, something about Elon Musk.
Oh, can we not? I was having an okay week.
Okay, well then
I don't like
I'll-
entertaining his man-child tantrums.
Okay, then maybe I'll save that for the solo show, like on Monday. I don't know when I'm doing my solo Monday shows yet, but when I
God damn
do,
it, L.
So,
Mr. Mr. L, there's this great site called Pornhub. You can see that anytime you want on your own time, just not right now. Somebody was
Sorry, but I had to approve that comment.
okay. So let me give some. Let me
What
remind
the hell?
what.
Somebody's flying helicopters over my fucking house.
Well, they probably want some of your chocolate.
No, I live. No, they're on their way to Fort Campbell.
Oh, okay. All right, so let
feels
me.
like that time when I had those motorcycles come in during our stream. Remember, guys?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
wanted some of that chocolate too.
Yeah, you got motorcycles. I got the U.S. military.
Well, at least they didn't shoot down any weather balloons.
Mr. L.
Oh yeah, Mr. L. Yeah, we're not gonna do a Pornhub episode, okay? Don't get your hopes up. Anyway, so let me dive into this thing that happened a few weeks ago that's been making the rounds on Twitter, because this is actually pretty educational for people. And it's actually realized that this whole conservative civil war that's going on is actually beneficial in a way that people never expected, because now people are starting to realize the truth about some of their about how things are done in terms of like how brands are built and everything, and people had this illusion about, oh my god, how can you make it on YouTube when you come from nothing? Turns out they didn't come from nothing. They had funding from billionaires the entire time.
Hell, I wish we had funding like that.
Oh no, you know what? If we don't even have any budget, if we had a budget, I would buy all of us microphones and like some pretty like the best, like the most quality that all these people use. That would be the first start, and then trying to see if we can hire people on the side to like do like some of the more basic things. But see what
Or even you trying to, or even you are trying to get us, bring us over to Florida.
Well, no, I wouldn't do that. Why would I bring you here? Why would I bring you here?
Because of our cold weather here.
Well, no, it's not. No, I mean, Sylph knows what it's like here. So, I mean, I wouldn't subject all of you to that. And we would probably. I don't even think that we would be in the same area. I think that we're just. I think as long as we're just. What am I trying to say? Whatever's comfortable. It's like, let's just try to make it so if we had a budget, it would be like the most comfortable. Like, am I explaining it properly? I don't know. But just trying to make.
I just remember at one point you wanted us all to be like Creature Hub, have our own building, and all that shit.
Oh, that was somebody else's idea. Like, somebody said, like, oh, hey, let's go get, like, a townhouse so we can all just have, like, our own stream rooms and everything. I'm like, that's a tough order to do because then we would all have to pay for it. And that would actually mean that one of us would have to get funding for that. But no, that's not the case. Anyway.
And some of us don't want to leave our families.
Exactly. That, listen, this YouTube life is not really that great, okay?
Yeah.
People have been miserable being the YouTubers. I mean, nobody's ever come out of this being successful, unless, of course, you have money backing you, and you end up going to Hollywood anyway. I mean, you think of all the famous YouTubers, like Justin Bieber, who eventually just became like an international star, because he's Canadian. So, he came over here, went to Hollywood, and this became a big pop sensation. Same thing with Soulja Boy, same thing with Katy Perry. Anyway, and somebody like Cold Feet, who started out on the PBS show Arthur as the brain, and then eventually decided to become a Fox News personality, and then even
Arthur.
And then even Fox News was like, "Man, you are just not good enough for this network." And then he's like, "Fine, you know what? I'll go and do my own thing." And then he realized
with blackjack and hookers.
Well, then he realized that he needed funding for his project. He couldn't do it on his own, because here's the thing: if you were to see the type of conservative content that most people see on YouTube, if it didn't have any funding from billionaires, you know how bad it would do? It would do extremely bad. Because the only way that these channels ever become successful in the first place is because they have the backing of some very rich, wealthy white guys, and all they do is just they funnel these money to them, and because of the production value that they offer, and because of the connections that they sometimes make with YouTube, because let's face it, YouTube does make connections with certain YouTubers to protect them because there's money involved. And you want to wonder about demonetization, that's mostly because they're trying to please the advertisers that want to advertise on everybody's video. And when advertisers don't like something, they'll demonetize you because you talked about a certain topic. There are ways to fix that, and I'll talk about that later. But getting into Mr. Cold Feet here, we've talked about him before on a previous show, but he was the guy that ran away from a debate with another prominent YouTuber named Sam Cedar. He's a political commentator, very famous. Did a lot of the Cartoon Network shows from like the 2000s that a lot of people remember, like Home Movies, and had a stint on Bob's Burgers for a while. Actually, still does. He just plays another character other than the health inspector. But
yeah, I remember that dude.
Yeah, so his Hugo, I think, was his name. And then they killed him off. But now he does the voice of Harold, which I think is Bob's dad. But you know, he's had prominent roles on some very famous cartoons. But he also started a political show when his career started to dwindle down, and he's been very popular for debating, let's just say, people that really believe in the whole South Park ideology, libertarians. And made a career out of debating libertarians and saying, like, you're the way that you want to structure society won't work. I mean, you do know that there was a town that tried to do that, and they basically just ruined their entire society, right? Like, there was someone that tried to live like the way that libertarians like to live, which is like they own their own property and the government does nothing. It's kind of like Trevor in GTA 5. Does not work. But so he's been debating them for years, so he's always been known as a good debater. And Steven Crowder is the guy that was basically the whole "change my mind" meme. Like, that's where that whole thing started, because he went to a college campus and he said, "Hey, you know, I'll debate anybody on this on the myth that there's such a thing as male privilege." And then of course that became a thing. And so there's like an entire YouTube videos of him like, "Yeah, I'll debate anybody." And then he always used to complain like, "Oh, why is it that the libs don't want to debate me or everything? Like, what happened to like the free exchange of ideas?" And so Sam was like, "I'll debate you." And then Steven Crowder just turns around and says, "Oh, you're trying to profit off of my fame. You're trying to get big with your YouTube numbers." After all this time of him saying like, "Yeah, I'll debate any lib that wants to debate him," and then somebody raised his hand, like Sam's like, "I'll do it," and then he's like, "No," runs away from him. And so for years, and then there was that whole thing with a couple, like 2 years ago, where he snuck in on a debate that Crowder and Ethan Klein from H3H3 were having. We played the whole thing on here once, and then of course he ran away like a little baby after 10 minutes of getting exposed, and of course that really hurt him in the end. It really did. Like people saw him for like the little cold feet coward that he was, and then of course things have gone by since. And looks like Cold Feet's not even done, because his stint with another company called Blaze, which is another conservative internet outlet, he had a deal with them where he would have like some type of funnel called the Mug Club where people can go, and that was like an extra way for him to make money besides the backing that he got from YouTube and other like prominent wealthy people. But when that Blaze thing went up, the Daily Wire, which is owned by Ben Shapiro, who is a failed screenwriter who blames Hollywood for his career not coming off, mostly because his screenplays were terrible. Like the amount of somebody actually took a look at one of his screenplays and he said, yeah, this would have actually been worse than The Room. Tommy Wiseau would have won an Oscar if this was paired up against Ben Shapiro's movie. Like, when people said that Tommy Wiseau can make a better movie than Ben here, I mean, that's when you know he's bad as a screenwriter. So he decided...
this movie has... I was going to say, yeah, his movie would have like 300 times more of the spoon pictures.
No. You want to know? He actually did make a movie with his conservative political company. They got Gina Carano, who used to be on The Mandalorian show before she got kicked off of there because she said I can't remember if it was anti-vax stuff or whatever. But yeah, they basically kicked her off the show because she wouldn't get vaccinated. So they're like, oh my God, how dare they ruin this beautiful actress? You know, she's doing great things. So they instantly hired her, Ben did, right away. And they were going to make this movie specifically under their studio that they have. And so the movie came out a couple of months ago. And you want to know how much it did in the box office?
$0.
$800. It did horrible. Very bad. And everybody was making fun of them. And everybody was reminding people, yeah, remember Ben Shapiro? Yeah, he was a failed screenwriter who turned a conservative because he didn't like the fact that Hollywood wouldn't accept his crappy work. But it was like, how is it that they accept Tommy's work but not mine? So he started rebranding himself as like the cool kids philosopher. Like, I was like, oh, this is all the stuff that college kids will listen to. So he made a career out of doing that. And he built this big company with the backing of course, more billionaires that had him in his back pocket. So, I mean, a lot of these guys, they don't work. These guys are not made people. These people were backed by others and they worked technically for them. They just didn't mind the things they were saying that are horrible. And these guys are all friends, mind you, because they all believe in the same philosophy. So it was told by Steven that he had that there was a contract offered to him by a specific company, and then what happened was he was telling everybody like, "Oh, I got a contract sent to me, and it's basically a slave contract, and it's exploitative, and I'm not going to sign this contract." Didn't say exactly who the company was. Okay, so I have a few articles here that I'm going to share with everybody, and to say, Mr. L, supposedly that movie made lots of money when you count the Daily Wire records and not just the box office. Doesn't matter. If it's not accepted by the majority of America, it doesn't. You know it's bad. Like that. I mean, this guy has been wanted to be accepted in society for so long, and the only way he can do that is through his own funneling. I mean, you have to remember, he's getting funneled that money from people that are much richer than he is. So that's like, it's like these people who they write books, and you know what, they get on the bestseller list from the New York Times simply because they have somebody richer than them buying all their books for them. That's how that happens. It's rich people. Yeah, they don't get there because they make good books. They get there sometimes, these conservatives that write books. They get there because people are actually buying their books that are richer than them. It's like one billionaire that just buys all the books for them, and then they get on the bestseller list that way. So it's kind of like the same thing with the whole Daily Wired records. I mean, it's not really much of a difference. The box office is really the key point here. That guy is not making another movie on a mainstream budget. It's not happening. He's going to be making small movies. Unless they start their own streaming service, that's the only way his movies will be accepted. Because there's no way that a major studio is picking up his work. Anyway, so the Daily Beast is a very good source to get news. And they talked about this feud that's been going on, taking an ugly turn, as the title says. So it reads, an increasingly ugly and personal feud has publicly broken out between two of the biggest names in the conservative entertainment complex. Very weird way of saying that, but it's not really entertainment to the majority of people. It's just entertainment to their fan base and everything. And it's not that entertaining, trust me. A lot of them have said some horrible things. Like, just look up their Rational Wiki articles if you want to learn more. With one popular YouTuber accusing right-wing media boy king Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire empire of colluding with tech companies to tamp down right-wing content. Yeah, there's been a lot of that going around, especially with someone who shall not be named on here. Cold Feet has been basically saying that big tech is in bed with big con. That's what Cold Feet calls conservatives who decide to that have like so much money that they just start forming their own companies. Because Cold Feet likes to tell everybody that he's like the little guy that's just trying to make it into the world, and he's going up against these big corporations. He did the same thing when he was accused of homophobia against somebody who used to work at Vox. And then when he got demonetized because he said like homophobic slurs about this guy at Vox, he's like, oh my God, Vox is coming after the little guy. They're coming after me, and it's about time we start taking down these major companies because they're attacking me. And it's like, no, that's not the case at all. But that's the way he likes to brand himself. He likes to brand himself as like the little guy that made this company out of nothing. It's like, I put my blood, my sweat, and my tears into this company, and nobody else did it but me. I laced myself up my own bootstraps. Not true at all. You got money from big people. Anyway, a day after Crowder told his viewers to stop Big Con, which by the way is now a website, because now he's trying to turn this into a brand for himself. So just think about that as we go through this. The Daily Wire's chief executive, Jeremy Boring, published an hour-long response video detailing the negotiating offer that the media empire sent to Crowder's agent. By the way, this contract was just a negotiation. He did not sign it. He did not do anything. This was something that he thought that this is something that was just put on the table, and he's just making a big deal out of this. So, Boring, besides confirming the Daily Wire had offered Cold Feet $50 million, claimed the podcaster misconstrued and misinterpreted many of the details of the potential contract. He also took issue with Cold Feet accusing his site of doing the bidding of tech companies, insisting the Daily Wire's also been a victim of big tech's supposed one-side censorship of conservative voices. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a second. So, think about this. Before I get to there, let me just address some things that Mr. L says. Apparently, Steven rejected the contract based on principles. No, it's not principles at all whatsoever, and I'll explain why in a second. I was like, Mr. L says, oh, well, self-buying is just sad, or having some other rich person buying it just because they're your friend, just pathetic. Yeah, like, can you imagine if I wrote a book and there was like some person that said like, oh, hey, let's just buy his book, even though it's just about tomatoes. It's just the thing about tomatoes and just how it goes well with this this food that just is made out of semolina wheat, and you boil it for like, and you mix it with some dough, and then you make like some interesting shapes out of it, and then you could just make it in this thing called pasta, and you just put some tomatoes in a boiling water, and you can make sauce with it and make pasta. Yeah, let's try to get that book, even though it's been done 100 times. Anyway, so here's the thing about this contract. This is $50 million over 4 years. So Cold Feet would have been making $12 million a year by working with Ben Shapiro's outlet. Now that's a lot of money, considering that he also was probably going to get more money in years 5 and 6, $12 million more on each of them. Now, anybody listening to that, $50 million over 4 years, you get a chance to make more money the next 2 years after that contract is over with. Plus, there's some other opportunities to make some cash on the side. Because, by the way, this is just a contract that allows the Daily Wire to have ownership of his show in certain instances when he uploads content for them, and the social media accounts that come along with that. Some people would take a look at that contract and say, okay, you're going to pay me $12 million over 4 years. I'd take that if it allows me to say the things that I want to. I'm sure anybody here, if they were given that opportunity, they would take it. And I'm sure some people might not, but if I were to ask anybody here, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with that. I mean, hell, it would give me a chance to move to California if I had a chance to. Mr. L, apparently he thinks that he's worth more than $50 million. That's how foolish this guy thinks he is. He thinks he's worth more than $50 million. This guy doesn't even make $50 million right now on his own. Like, he gets paid like 1 or 2 million just a year alone. This guy, they were paying him more than what he's already making right now. 12 million is a lot of money for at least 1 year. So, anyway, and let me also address like this whole attack on like, oh, these conservative ideas. No, actually, research has shown that the opposite is true. They get featured a lot more than any other content out there when it comes to politics or whatever. And people like us that have been preaching the opposite, more progressive values, ours, like, if you ask anybody, like, those ideas get censored a lot more than conservative ones do. And it's just that nowadays people are actually calling out this shit, and they don't like it when they get called out on stuff that they know is wrong and everybody else knows it's wrong. It's just a matter of they want to be able to say things and be able to do things without any consequences to do it. And they've been getting away with it for decades. It's just now that people are actually... social media has now given people a chance to react to that stuff and to slap back against it. And Mr. L would definitely take $12 million a year. I bet you anybody listening to this right now would take that contract in a heartbeat if they were allowed to say whatever they wanted to say on their show. Anyway, so a former Fox News personality and a right-wing comedian, Cold Feet grew in popularity in recent years thanks to his trollish behavior, including the Change My Mind segments that I talked about. His online show, which is called Louder with Crowder, was picked up by The Blaze, which is another conservative site, and became one of the most popular political podcasts on Spotify and Apple. At the same time, he's courted controversy by spewing homophobic, racial, and misogynistic slurs, which we talked about before. He was giving up his mug club, and he wasn't going to renew. And so, while no longer for The Blaze, Crowder's show was continuing on an independent basis. maintaining nearly 6 million YouTube subs and tallying more than 1 million subs on Rumble, which is a YouTube alternative basically for conservative people who hate YouTube. And by the way, if you're thinking that Rumble's any better, no, they censor more people than YouTube does, and they claim to be the video sharing site that does not censor anybody, which is such a lie. They censor more than YouTube does. So if you think you're going to get an alternative there, trust me, you're not. At least YouTube doesn't go after people the way that Rumble does. And it's mostly because they don't get advertisers like YouTube does. Anyway, so during a broadcast 3 weeks ago, Crowder revealed that a conservative media company, and which viewers quickly deduced to be the Daily Wire, sent him a contract offer. Without mentioning the monetary terms, Crowder groused that the contract included penalties, I put those in quotes, if his show was demonetized, suspended, or removed from any major hosting and video sites. So the contract states that if any of the major platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify issues a content strike such that Crowder's content cannot be monetized on a platform and the money is not able to resolve the company is not able to resolve the issue in 90 days, then the fee will be reduced by 25% from that point forward. So basically what would happen is if Crowder were to say something very offensive that would be triggered by the advertisers and he gets demonetized for it, then the company is liable for paying the type of money that the company is liable for payments at that point, which they would then have to take out of Steven Crowder's contract by about 25%. So that was an issue that he didn't like. He's just like, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. Now Crowder says no, I thought this was a mistake because these people maybe didn't know who I am. Well, I've been demonetized for 3 years. It's been made very clear to me that that's what's sent out to everybody. So while raising alarm over another condition that would penalize him $100,000 for every contracted episode he doesn't produce. So, for example, if he didn't meet his contractual obligations to release an episode on a specific day, he would get fined for it, which, yes, if you make an agreement with somebody and they say, hey, we want you to make videos every Wednesday and have it uploaded at 6 p.m. every Wednesday, if you don't meet that obligation, you're going to get penalized for that. So it's very simple when you sign that dotted line. And he's like, oh my God, that's more about this whole big tech thing coming after like small YouTube creators because they're not uploading their content. So in his response video, Boring, who works for Daily Wire, said he wanted to be transparent with the audience by confirming that Crowder was talking about them as the company, because Cold Feet wouldn't name the company that he was talking about these contract obligations for, which, by the way, he didn't have to bring up. Like, this whole thing wouldn't have started if Cold Feet would have just kept his mouth shut and not said a word. It's like, okay, you're not going to take the offer that they offered you. All right. But he made this a big deal himself because he wanted to show people that, oh my God, here they are coming after me, the small man, and these big companies, and we need to stop them all. Which, that really is just a branding exercise, because it's all a way for him to just build his brand and to get more people to watch his show rather than watch those other conservative shows. Because if you really think about it, none of these people want to, like, they don't really want to have a community. They want to be known as the man, if you know what I mean. Like, they want to say that they're the baddest bitch in the neighborhood and everybody else is just shit. It's like ego battles with each other. Like, one person says they're the best, the other one says they're the best, and then they just have like this little civil war thing. Like, they'll agree on certain things, but on the side they just want to compare who's got bigger dicks and everything. So, Mr. L's putting out a lot of thing. I was like, conservatives are against people like me existing, so that's nice, but they're just point to Blair White as a response. Albeit I'm not trans, but I am pan. Oh, I think, Mr. L, didn't you say you were pan before? I think so. Mr. L.
Pan brother.
You are now part of Circus's big tent. Mr. L.
You are now my family.
Everyone in favor of free speech until someone else says something they don't like. Yes. That's very much their MO. And then, oh, well, maybe we should stop saying offensive stuff in that case, but he's Steven, so he won't. Yeah, that's the whole point. He wants to be able to say something and not get demonetized. That's his version of what free speech is, being able to say anything without losing money or getting criticized for it. That's really it. But of course, that doesn't work in society. It hasn't worked in society for hundreds of years. If you live in a community and the community's not liking what you're saying, then you have to go on the whims of the community. Just because you have more money does not mean that you're bigger than the community itself. Let me see. Methodically detailing the entire contract line by line, Boring rejected the notion that the media company would seek to punish Crowder if a platform demonetized his channel or advertisers fled the show. At the same time, he noted that the language of the contract was standard in order to protect the Daily Wire from shouldering the entire burden of any decreases in ad revenue, especially since the Daily Wire would provide advertisers and sponsors for the program, as Boring pointed out. Yeah, see, that's what the company's main job is. They help get the advertisers for the people that they sign the contracts for. It's not up to the person that's being contracted to find the advertisers. They're finding it for them. And so the problem is, if those same advertisers that they just got for this company does not agree with the content or with something that's said by Cold Feet, they have every right to say, we don't want to advertise with this guy because he's not liking what they said and you brought us here, so we want out of this. And then the company has to compensate for that. Like, that's standard practice, like when it comes to like contract negotiations and advertising. Quote, Steven's philosophy appears to be, I deserve to be paid millions and millions and millions of dollars whether my show drives the revenue or not. That you see how and that really is the case. He really builds himself up as like, I deserve to make millions of dollars just being who I am.
So entitled.
Yeah. If you think about it, when you get to be big on like a major platforming site, that ego, of course, is going to be so high that you think that you deserve you think you deserve to have billions of dollars. When you know that that's not the case, because there's always going to be somebody that got you to that position. So you didn't get there on your own merits. Most people don't, because we don't live in a meritocracy. Spoiler alert. Somebody got there where they are because either A, they found someone that had a lot of money and put them in that position, or B, you're just like Beyonce, that is just really talented, and you have a dad that knows the record business and can get you around places, knowing that you are a very talented personality and you're a great singer and you got the looks that can get people to buy your albums and everything, and you're a badass in general. So, I mean, that's not really meritocracy. That just means you were just born with a certain talent that appeals to a lot of people and doing very good at that at best. I mean, most people would say that's more of a moral way to make a lot of money, is to just be very talented as an artist, which again, Beyonce is. And then, of course, in Steven's case, he just appeared on a PBS show and then decided, oh, this PBS show thing is not working. Let me just try to see if I can get involved with Fox News. And then, of course, when he left, some billionaires felt sorry for him, and so they decided to give him just a little bit of money to work for other companies that those billionaires were funding. Yeah, because Cold Feet worked for other companies before he started having his own YouTube show. And then once he got enough money where he could just go off on his own and just, make revenue from YouTube like everyone else decides to do, then he was like, okay, then I basically don't have to work for anybody but myself, except he still does technically, because there are still people that fund his show. And if he pisses off the people who fund his show, they're going to stop funding his stuff. So in all actuality, this guy did not make it up on his own. But he thinks he deserves that money because he's worked himself into thinking that he made all of this money on his own. which he really didn't. But he also wants to convince his audience that he's a self-made man. Because if he doesn't convince his audience of that, what happens is they're going to find out he's a liar, which most people already have anyway over the past few years, running away from a debate when he should have just went with it and said, okay, you know what? You came into this debate unannounced. Fine, I'll be the bigger man, and I'll show how Ethan Klein is a full of shit and you're full of shit. But instead, no, he ran away like a baby because he didn't get his way. So, but if he doesn't convince his fans of that, then they won't watch his show anymore. And if he can't present himself as a hardworking man of the people that just wants to see other people have successful YouTube shows, which, by the way, that's a lie. He doesn't want you to have a big YouTube show because now you're competing with him. And then he'll try to come after you and say that you're not a real conservative like he is. See, these guys are friendly to each other, but they're not really friends. They are ruthless, and they will slice your throat if they had a chance to. Like, that's why it's not a very healthy ideology to be around, because it just makes you miserable.
Sounds like the people in Christian broadcasting.
Yes.
Yep.
And by the way, he is like one of those hardcore Christians who, by the way, likes to dress up as women. Very interestingly, too. People have questioned, like, are you really straight? Because you like to dress up like women a lot. And
He's taking the Tyler Perry approach.
Yeah, because people have been really questioning his sexuality. It's like, there are not that many straight people that will go around, unless you're a drag queen, which there are some straight drag queens out there, but he doesn't portray himself as a drag queen. He doesn't even like drag in general. But he will do it himself as, like, comedy sketches. But he does it a lot, though. Like, to the point where people are like, I gotta really question this about you. And there's even some theories about suppression from his dad, because his dad's his manager. So there's this thing like his dad is really running the show, and he's like, no, you can't be gay. You know, you have to have a man with balls. You have to be straight, and you have to have gun holsters on your shoulders, and you got to get married to a woman and have kids with her, which he does. He has twins now. So, which, by the way, he also used his wife as an excuse to get out of a debate when she's like, oh, my pregnant wife had to go to the hospital, when she really didn't. So that just shows you just how much he's willing to run away from a debate in that sense. Oh.
It's a chicken.
Anyway, where did I leave off? Okay. That's not a business relationship, Boring said in his video. He's looking for a benefactor. Yes, as a lot of these people do. They're just looking for rich benefactors that will give them money. As for Crowder's complaints about being dinged $100,000 for every acceptable episode he isn't able to create, something that Crowder likened to a slave contract. Let me tell you something about the slaves. They didn't make any money back then.
Exactly.
I would bet you a slave would like to make $50 million back then over 4
they got
years.
beat if they didn't do their fucking work.
Exactly. I'm sure a lot of people back then, because $50 million back then would have been like $1 billion in that day and age. They don't even make the people. I mean, you would have to be like an NFL like player to make that kind of money, or like that, because that's the only way that you can get a big contract like that in this day and age. You have to be like a prominent football star, and even in basketball too, you can make that money, but you have to be like the top superstar.
Gotta be Michael Jordan.
No, Michael Jordan makes more than 50, or he made more than 50 back then.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta be the top bitch.
So Boring pointed out how this was standard, especially for the amount of money that they were offering Cold Feet. Crowder, in his initial rant, failed to mention that he was offered $50 million for 4 years. Notice how he left that part out. He didn't say how much the money was worth in the beginning until the Daily Wire pointed it out. Like, yeah, we basically gave him this amount of money. And then people are like, why would you turn that down? You barely make that enough money as it is. Furthermore, Boring noted that Crowder would only be contracted to provide 192 episodes a year. That's about 4 90-minute broadcasts a week. minus a minimum 4-week vacation. So let's put this in perspective here. He would only have to work 4 days a week, plus he gets a month of vacation time. You know how many people would like to work just 4 days a week? Do you know how many people...
I know, my mouth is just dropped over here.
Do you want to know how many people would love to just take an entire month of vacation time off? I know there's plenty of people that just want to go to Bora Bora and then just have sex with like some of the locals down there for like an entire weekend or whatever. They just want to have fun.
A reality check, I'm telling you.
He can even tape the broadcasts in advance and then air them later if he needed time off. So he can record them. And then just say,
Yeah, he
okay.
could do the show there if he wanted to.
Yeah. And do a live show in Bora Bora or something like that if he wanted to.
Show your fans what Bora Bora is all about.
So I'm sure he would say some racist stuff about the people there too, but...
True.
So after tweeting out Boring's video and saying he wished Crowder nothing but the best, Ben Shapiro, who owns the company, addressed the controversy on his program the 2 days afterwards, and he doubled down on what Boring had presented, saying that that's how contracts work. Further pointing out that both the Daily Wire and Crowder Show would lose money if it lost advertisers or access to certain platforms. Yes, conservatives need these platforms from these big tech companies in order to live. They do this whole narrative of like, oh, big tech is coming after conservatives and they're trying to silence us all because we say things. That is what they tell you on the surface. But what's really happening behind the scenes is they are actually the most in contact with those big tech companies to keep them afloat. Ben Shapiro has a big Facebook following. You want to know why? Because he has lunches with Mark Zuckerberg. And Mark Zuckerberg basically lets him know, like, oh, hey, yeah, we'll make sure that the algorithm is tailored towards your content, and we'll try to push your content more often than most other people on there. So they get a chance to sit down with all these big companies, and they get to make those decisions. But that's mostly, they go with that narrative because they're trying to get more people, they're trying to funnel more people into their shows. Because behind the paywall, the stuff that you don't see on YouTube, the stuff that you see on Patreon and everything, that's more of the racist stuff. That's more of the misogynistic stuff. That's more of the anti-Semitic stuff, the transphobic stuff. The stuff that you get demonetized for on YouTube, but you certainly wouldn't on Patreon because they hide it behind a paywall. Unless somebody calls it out, then Patreon will come after you. But Patreon doesn't have the same terms of service or quality standards that YouTube does. I'll say that. Patreon has its bad faults. So sex is okay, I guess, but have you had a really sweet cake with fudge that's topped in mousse and a nice ganache? Oh, Sylph, you're making me hungry, damn it.
Ew. How dare you? We will come after you.
Okay. Wait, okay, so if you're bringing on food porn, okay, chill, bud.
Yeah, Mr. L will agree with us, I think.
Sorry.
Hey, no, trust me. I take that sweet cake with fudge, topped with mousse.
We all would.
Just chocolate upon chocolate upon chocolate.
I just want
I
to
got
go to the gross moment. All of us sitting in the kitchen eating cheesecake.
And chocolate covered strawberries.
How the hell
Oh,
did
yeah.
that orange cat get in the road?
What?
Sorry, I'm kind of multitasking here, and this guy saved a little orange kitten from, like, getting hit because it was on the road.
Oh no.
It is good, Mr. L. You should try it.
Oh, snake on the road.
Well, steak can die.
Oh no, that's mean. They eat bugs.
Mean. I used to have snakes. Come on.
I ate them.
Anyway, so, quote, there is something rather nasty about attacking people who have been friends for over a decade, colleagues, defenders for over a decade, on the basis of your own misinterpretation of a document that offers you $50 million over the course of 4 years, Shapiro concluded. I will just reiterate that these guys are not really friends. They just act like that. I will keep reminding people of that. Well, they're not even frenemies. They're just enemies, but they just pretend to be. It's kind of like how Crime
Reality
Family
show.
Oh, that too.
Or Mean
Yeah.
Mean
That
Girls
type.
kind of thing.
It's like if it's
I
like
was
if,
thinking more of like, oh, hey, like, fuck, what's the name of the show? Like,
oh, there's a
like
lot of
script-
reality.
trying to think of like
The Real
something
World?
here. Sure, why not?
Or Big Brother, where they act friendly to your face
That's
in
it.
front of the cameras, but when they do like private interviews, they're like, "Oh, fuck her, fuck him."
Yeah.
Finally, with much of Crowder's criticism focused on YouTube demonetization and the ongoing issues his program has had with that, Boring insisted that any terms related to that in the initial contract offering would likely have just been scratched out in the second draft. In the end, Boring said that the public dispute with Crowder was one of the saddest things he has had to face. This is not the same time that Cold Feet has gone after other conservatives. He did the same thing on Sean Hannity's show 10 years ago, which, by the way, got him kicked out of Fox News. Like, that was the things like, you can't go up against one of our top hosts. That is unacceptable. And they're like, bye. And they're just like, oh, Fox News is taking me down. They censored me for going after one of the big hogs. It's like, you have no it's like, you went after him for the worst of reasons.
There's literally no reason.
Yeah. So meanwhile, one of the Daily Wire's biggest stars briefly ended up siding with Crowder amidst the increasingly heated feud, which is Jordan Peterson, who's a psychologist that unfortunately Stuke became a huge fan of, and then ended up not doing good for himself after that. But yeah, Jordan Peterson is also somebody who got contracted with the Daily Wire and then took down his tweet defending Crowder when he realized, oh my god, he's attacking the company that I work for. Oops.
Self-burn. That's rare.
So, and then both sides ended up going on Tim Pool's show, which is also another prominent YouTuber that made his money working for another company. By the way, started out as a lib, but then realized that, oh, I can't make money being a lib, so I'll just pretend that I'm in the middle and then just bring everybody conservative on there. I mean, this is the guy that brought on Kanye West when Kanye was going on his whole conservative show tour at the time. And even then, like, Kanye walked out on his own show because he was like calling him out on his anti-Semitism and everything. Yes, he did. Jordan did get his license revoked. They have said you can't be a child psychologist because you don't know what you're talking about, dude. So here's some lessons that you can learn from this. Conservatives make a lot of money. The amount of money that they make is equivalent to what football players make. And they get that funding only through rich billionaires. Billionaires are already rich. I don't know why I put the rich in front of it. But that's how they make their money. If a billionaire likes what that person is saying, they are going to fund them. That is like the same thing with almost everybody that owns a company and has a lot of money. It's happened in the music business too. If you have something, if you have a song, or if you have a style that they think they can make money with, they are going to do everything they can to make sure that you got the funding and that you got the panache to keep on going. It's no different with these billionaires that are doing this for political reasons. So people need to understand. So when they say that they made this on their own, trust me, they didn't. And by the way, Joe Rogan is same thing. He didn't make it on his own either. Joe Rogan started off as a comedian, and not a very good one at that. So he decided to become a Fear Factor host. And then when that stint was done, he decided to just do some MMA commentary and then made a podcast right afterwards. Then realized that there was a lucrative way that he can produce his show, and that was by getting all of these prominent figures in the conservative movement that were backed up by a lot of rich people, and that's why Spotify gave him like such a huge contract. and also complained when Spotify took some of his more hateful episodes down, because that's what they're allowed to do. And still some things Rogan says today that people have issues with, but Spotify keeps defending him because they realize that there's money to be made in there. But you have to understand, these people don't make it on their own. Most people in America don't make it on their own. The idea of meritocracy is a myth. It is out the window. You get there by having somebody help you along the way. And even if you were just somebody that is a hardworking person, and you do work hard, and everybody does, but if you really work hard and you're involved in a community that really rewards your hard work, the community helped you get there in a lot of ways. Sometimes just being a good person in a certain situation can really be a benefactor along the way. Either way, on both sides, whether it's good or bad, people don't make it on their own. It is usually a group effort, whether it's for good reasons or for bad reasons. But understand the huge money that comes out of these conservative movements out there, and look at how much money the other side makes, the more progressive side. Like, they don't have the funding that they do because billionaires don't like what progressives are saying. Everything that they say is off because a lot of progressives go after billionaires. In fact, they don't think billionaires should exist. They think that they should be taxed. Most of their wealth should be taxed, and that they shouldn't be having all this money, because billionaires don't even spend that much money in their lifetimes. And a lot of other people could be using that money, and progressives want to see them get taxed at marginal rates that they were getting taxed in the 30s and the 40s, back when FDR was president. Back then, rich people were taxed at 80%. That was the highest that it went. So if you made a certain amount of money, let's say you made about $1 million back in the 30s, you were taxed 80%. So you lost $800,000 and you still had $200,000 left. And back then, $200,000 was still a lot of money. And if you're a billionaire now, you get paid, you must have like $20 billion. Let's say you get taxed 80% of that. You're still in the millions after that. So you still have money. You just don't need, and all that money that gets taxed, that actually goes to the welfare of the rest of the country. That's why we have taxes in the first place, is to provide the welfare for not just people, for transportation and for other things like healthcare and for transportation and for other needs. That's what it's mostly there for. Like, countries with like the biggest welfare states are actually the ones that do really well. And that's what progressives want to see. Billionaires hate that because they don't want to live in that system. They want to live in a system that only benefits them, and that's it. That's why they that's why they have Steven Crowder say his stuff. That's why they have Ben Shapiro say his stuff. That's why they have Joe Rogan saying his stuff. They want to keep those guys prominent, and they'll do it through advertising. They'll do it through production value, and they'll do it just because they're a big name. And as long as people don't know the truth behind it, then those people will still have their shows and still be profitable. But this particular, oh, by the way, I will talk about Mr. Beast in a second. That's a good idea. We'll probably talk about that after the whole teacher thing too. But the thing is with this little civil war that's been happening with Ben and Steven, they exposed what it's really like for them. Like, because they are fine with exploiting their own employees. They're fine with exploiting other people so that they can make their money. It's just that Steven's exploiting for a different reason. He's exploiting another conservative outlet so that he can build his own brand, which is Stop the Con, which, by the way, is not going to be successful because there's only so few people that still think that, oh, this guy's looking out for me, like if I had my own show. No. But this also showed people the behind the scenes of like how contracts are done and how this whole thing works, like how all these contracts works and how they get their funding for it. because people had never been exposed to that type of thing before. People never knew, because people for years always thought that that's how they got their money, was through hard work and nothing else. So the idea of this concept of meritocracy and the fact that, you know, all this stuff was going on their own and people looked up to that, now people are starting to see the truth of that in ways that they haven't seen before. And when that happens, especially if you're younger than us, and you're getting into this realm for the first time, and a lot of these Zoomers are getting very involved in the political realm. I mean, a lot more so than the older generations. I mean, you should have seen the way the midterms were this past year. I mean, they came out in droves, and it actually surprised a lot of people. But it's mostly because they're living in a world right now where when they turn 18, a college degree is not going to be enough for them. They're not going to be able to afford housing. They're not going to be able to get married, because a lot of times, and some of them don't even want to get married because they realize that marriage is not beneficial for them in a lot of ways. And so
Yeah, it costs much these days.
it does. It costs a lot. And even having kids from 0 to 18 costs $250,000, and people don't have $250,000 unless you have a job that pays 6 to 7 figures. And the chances of you getting that job coming from a very poor family is slim. It happens, but it's very slim. And most likely you're gonna marry somebody in your own wealth class. So if you're poor, you're most likely gonna marry somebody else that's poor. It's very rare that you mean. I mean, 250K sounds low, but it's actually not. It's actually very, very difficult to get. It used to be a lot easier back in the 40s, 50s, and then when the 60s came along, it actually made things a lot worse over time. So that's why a lot of us nowadays don't get a chance to have our own houses, or even like do the things that we want to do, like take vacations and go explore things, unless of course you were born into a family that already had money. But most Americans don't. And
Now a lot of people are still living together in order to survive.
yeah, and that's why people have to stick to their own communities in a lot of ways. That's why they have to do a lot of mutual aid, because they know they can't do it on their own, and they need the mutual aid of everybody around them, and even from people on their own social media asking for mutual aid because they can't afford it themselves. Oh, you mean raising a child is a lot more. Because of inflation, it may have gone up a little bit. I mean, I'll have to look at the newest rates now, but that's what it was just a few years ago, was $250,000.
Clothe them, sports events, school,
Pay for their college tuition and
all
everything.
that shit.
Yeah.
College, you name it, birthday parties. Fuck, how many birthday parties do these kids have to go to? Then you have to buy somebody else's kids' toys. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, you know
Plus,
how many
parties have to look like something out of from My Sweet 16.
you know how many Chuck E. Cheeses you have to go to in that lifetime? I mean, my God.
That's what I'm saying. People are expecting to have like a child's 6th birthday party, have like 3 tiers of a birthday cake, and then have like Beyonce fucking performing these days, because you have to have a standards when it comes to children's fucking parties.
Depending on how much money you have.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So the point is, people got exposed to how they get their funding.
Mhm.
And that's important. That's important because now they're starting to realize that the people that they once knew and the people that they once admired are not the people that they thought they were. And it also gives people a sense of like how unfair it is on the other side, when progressives have been saying this for years, and that really what's really going on is it's just a bunch of
Like, I'm
billionaires.
giving people a good dose of reality.
Yeah. Huge dose of reality. And then people saw that with the whole cough cough Twitter thing, too. Which I won't talk about on here, but just to give you an idea, I'll talk about that on a solo episode, because I can go into more detail about these things. But it certainly is going to give people an opportunity to talk amongst themselves and understand that there are other YouTubers out there that talk about these things and actually provide solutions for these type of problems. You know, people have been saying for years, how do we deal with this demonetization thing on YouTube? Like, why is it that YouTube has this amount of power against these these YouTube channels? What can we do about it? It's a simple concept. All you have to do is Google antitrust laws, or Google what would happen if we had strong antitrust laws, and then just read up on it. And you'll start to realize that if we had strong antitrust laws, it would make so that YouTube does not have the power that it has now. YouTube would be broken up into smaller companies. And the smaller those companies are, the less power that they have over the people that come onto the site. The only reason YouTube is as big as it is now, because it's owned by Google, which practically owns pretty much everything when it comes to online stuff. I mean, they basically just bought Blizzard Activision, and they're going through shit with that right now. But they practically own a lot of stuff. But under antitrust laws, it would make it so that Disney can't buy out ESPN, can't buy the Fox stuff, can't buy out Marvel and Lucasfilms. Like, antitrust laws like that make it so that big companies can't buy out others and can't get as big as they do. Because the bigger that these entertainment companies get, the more power they have over the content that they're allowed to put on their platforms.
Basically, a monopoly.
Yeah, they form their own monopolies. So there's more that you can read up on it, but that's just the short thing. But that's something that everybody can advocate for. And it's something that is it's the only solution to it. If you listen to the guy that made the Psycho Dad videos, he thought that the way to stop YouTube was to make his own platform and then bring everybody else over there, not realizing, of course, it was just an opportunity for him to make money on his own. But he convinced enough people, like, oh, if I can bring everybody to this platform, it would be the same thing. That's why Rumble exists. That's why all these other alternatives exist, because they don't really want to change it. They don't really want to change YouTube because they know they might have to go back to YouTube if something happens to their small little business that they're trying to operate, which they foolishly think is going to succeed, but no. And if you think that the way to go after YouTube is to invent another one that's going to be just as better because it will allow the demonetization not to happen, guess what? Those big companies need advertising as well. Because that's the only reason YouTube survived after Google bought it, was all the advertisers that they bought in. That's why everybody was upset when the initial adpocalypse happened back in 2009, when they were going after channels for hosting Disney stuff and they were taking all the Disney stuff down. Because they were trying to appease Disney because Disney was funding them. So they had no choice but to do all that. But if you make it so that Google can't get influenced by Disney with the antitrust laws, then it stops them, and it allows people to be able to do the content that they want to do without having to be taken out by these big conglomerates. So that's one solution. Another solution. Here's another thing to this. If you're worried about certain people getting big, and if you're worried about the idea that a lot of these ideals that are attacking marginalized groups and everything, because that's how most of these people get their big platforms anyways, because you have funding from these billionaires. If you want to stop that, advocate that billionaires get taxed at a very high rate. We're talking huge, like 80%. Like, go for that. Even if right now, like during the State of the Union on Tuesday, President Biden said that that billionaires would have to pay the minimum tax, which I think is 15%. And they threw a gasket like, oh my God, most of our money is going to be taken away. 15%, I mean, that's the minimum. That's the smallest that a billionaire could pay at this time. But people are advocating for more, because the more they get taken from them, the less power they get. The less power they get, the more power the people get. And the more power people get, the easier it is for things to make things better for the welfare of the rest of society. So advocate for that. Yes, another thing, unions. Unions actually do help, but help protect employees. But well, I'll talk about that at a later time. But another thing about to stop these hateful things from happening is you find people in your community that are very like-minded in you in terms of your ideologies or whatever, and you find an organization in your area that maybe doesn't like allow, like maybe doesn't be too strenuous about how you have to be at certain events in order to do things. Like, oh hey, here's a Zoom conference where we talk about, like, we go over this book or we go over this article, and it's like on everybody like let's say for example that you were all interested in making sure that housing was more affordable so that everyone could buy a house. Let's say that there was a group in your area that was going to be focusing on that. It was like, okay, they have like a Zoom conference that happens like maybe on a Monday or something for like an hour, and you all talk about it on Zoom. And it's just like stuff like that. So you join an organization like that with like-minded people that also want affordable housing as well. And that's also how you do something like that, because the more you start appealing to start getting involved in your communities with certain certain policies that you care about, that also blends in with other people that wants things that also intersect with each other, and you build a movement like that. So you go up against the people that have been doing harm for the course of it. It is not easy to do. I mean, if I say it and it's like, oh, you make it sound so easy, Joey. No, it's not easy. Trust me. This is something that I started doing a year ago. Like, I didn't even know how to get started, and even then, it's difficult because with my schedule and everything, like trying to do a Zoom call at like 8 o'clock at night. It's like, oh, I'm already exhausted, but. You know, it's something like if you're really into it and you're really passionate about it and you really want to see some change do good, then that's how you get started. And it's just like, it's something small that you start with. You don't have to go all hog and pick something that, you know, is like the most popular, but it's got to be something that you really care about. It's got to be something that you're deeply passionate about, and there's also people in your area that are passionate about it as well, and there's an organization close by. You know, something simple like that. And you start small, and then eventually as you start learning more, and it also helps to read things too. Unlike me, who lives in a state where it's just banning books all the time, it helps when you like, if there's like certain books that I wish that there was like a recommendation of books that I can give people. Like, there's one of these days I'm gonna make a template on books that like people should read, like more about this stuff and how that they like how people can understand like how you can build like a good movement that benefits people in the end. But one of these days I'll work on it, and I will do something about that later on. But
we can always add a section to our Discord.
it would be a good section for the Discord, but I have to work on that. I have to work on the book list, because right now I'm only reading one book right now, and there's like plenty of others that I'm trying to read. Once I get like 20 essential ones, then then we can like do that Discord thing right there where we can like put it in like a
I'll just
like
call
a
it
separate
Joe's
thing.
library. How about that?
Ooh, I
recommend
like
one
it.
every time you're done.
Ooh, the laundromat library. I like it. Yeah.
There you
Oh.
go.
It is bizarre
I'll just write
library.
that-
It could
I'll
be
just write that down right now to put later.
all the books could be in a dryer, and we make sure that the books are heated.
All right, I'll
That's
work
pretty
on that
cool.
later.
Yeah, Mr. L, I can go into more like
Okay.
universal stuff later, because
What's up, boy?
not necessarily tonight, but you know, on a stream where we don't necessarily, you know, need to hear about more serious stuff. Like this is like, usually Fridays are like more of the fun days, but this was just an exception because Circus was like, ooh, let's talk about this.
Yeah,
And
would you
yes-
rather do another omnibus? Let's be honest.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you wanted to, I mean, whatever you guys want to do. I mean, I'll leave
I
Fridays up.
like talking about different subjects sometimes, just like as a break
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah, like like Fridays. I wanna leave it up to you three, cause like that's cause like I wanna cause this is your time as much as it is mine. So,
Mr.
uh,
L, we are not done setting up the Discord yet. I'm in the middle of working on it. So when everything's ready, when Joey wants me to, I'll release it.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so that's my little spiel. Um, but I hope anybody listening to this, and I hope anybody out there that wants more questions, be sure to leave a comment below if you have any more questions, and maybe I will try to answer them as best as I can. And if not, then I'll just try to do it on a solo stream on Mondays whenever I do more serious content. But anyway, so
Oh,
moving
you
on
should go
from
be
that.
Joey then.
Which part of Florida, Mr. L, that you're thinking of? Because there's gonna be certain parts of Florida that are not healthy. If you're doing Orlando, that's probably your best bet. Anyway, all right, so let's move on to some other stuff. Sylph was mentioning a teacher that got caught in the news lately, and I know that they I don't know where they
Hold on a
found it,
sec.
but
I'm just trying to find what. I have a bunch of tabs open and I'm trying to find it again.
okay, no worries.
Oh my god, it's a Bowser Luigi.
Oh yeah. Oh, Bash and Cash. Yeah, this minigame everybody hates back in that day because if you're in the Bowser suit, you can't win any coins.
You're fucked either way.
Ooh,
That's
eating the shit out of
disturbing.
Luigi.
The Bowser Luigi.
Hey, I was watching like a shout out to King of Skill and TC Nick 3, Sophist and Vernius, that these four have been playing Mario Party lately. The chaos that ensues there. Shout out to you guys who actually made up their own YouTube channel. I watch them a lot. And their edits are just so hilarious.
Yeah, it's a. And
Muted that tab. The hell?
if all four of us were to play, we wouldn't play this one because this one can hurt your hand because of the control
I don't
stick.
care, Joe. You and I are, I think we're all of us are veterans of the first Mario Party, so.
Sorry, I've been playing too much fucking Lollipop Chainsaw lately. That motherfucker hurts my hand on the joystick.
Wait. What
No, no,
type
no.
of animal stuffs over 700 pounds of acorns into the walls of a California home? You'd think it'd be squirrel, but no, woodpecker.
Oh yeah,
Huh.
woodpeckers can do a lot of damage.
Yeah,
Stuff
I mean,
acorns?
Yes.
they could stuff them because of, you know how sharp their beaks are?
Yeah, they're one of the sharpest out there. I mean, falcons are known for their claws, and woodpeckers are known for their beaks.
Alright, I found the video.
And we have to worry about crocodiles. Okay.
And yes, Mr. L, that is a thing, and that they have no justification for that. Although they probably think it in their own minds, but trust me, no.
Jesus. It's just a bunch of men wanting to go to war to each other. That's all they are. A bunch of old fogies.
You know what Pink Floyd calls
Yep.
them?
Who woke up and choose violence all the time.
You know what Pink Floyd calls them? Dogs of war.
Yeah.
Dogs have always in
How
the.
about,
Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say,
Okay.
let's just buy out a country, take these old fogies there, give them a bunch of shit so they kill each other.
You know what Pink
And
Floyd?
leave-
You know
Battle
what?
Royale style? Are you crazy?
Yes! And let everybody in the world to fucking watch it, because they want to destroy each other. Don't fucking drag all these innocent people with it. Just let them kill each other. I want a battle royale.
You know what Pink Floyd recommended besides that? They recommended that they put all the dictators in like an old folks home, and we just lock them in there, and then we watch them on like closed circuit televisions, and then we all make them play games with each other and make them feel like that they're important, but they're really not. And then later on, they're like, oh, once they're dead, then we take them out back and we We don't give them a proper burial. We just chuck them over the cliff like at the end of GTA 5.
That's what we have already. It's called prison.
Well,
Or something like, or even something like Lord of the Flies, wouldn't you say?
Oh no, Lord of the Flies. Have you read that book?
It's a bunch
I
of
have.
kids like killing each other.
Yeah, it's a bunch of kids like going like and just like
Yeah, hey, that's the same thing. Hey, that's the same thing as Battle Royale. That's
Yeah.
only only
Even
the
then,
junior
that one
high
was
schoolers.
Yeah, but
I
they
think it
killed the
was
kid.
only accurate for like a specific group of kids.
yeah,
Boys.
yeah, like they only wanted boys in that particular tribe, and anybody that didn't conspire with the leader of the tribe at that time, like they were killed. Like they fucking threw a boulder over a cliff to kill like the main character's best friend,
Yeah, Piggy.
Piggy. Yes.
Because he ate all the food or something.
Yes, which by the way, The Simpsons did a parody of.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. That's why I remember it so good. It was
Uh,
Millhouse.
I don't know if I told this story, but I remember watching the Lord of the Flies movie
I
back
tried to watch it.
Oh yeah,
in high
I
school.
watched it at school.
I remember my English teacher having us watch that because we read the book, and so he was like, "Hey, let's watch the movie." So like before we watched the movie, he decided to show the deleted scenes. So there was a deleted
shit.
there was some deleted scenes, and like the kids are by the beach. And all of a sudden, like one of the kids just takes off all his clothes, and my English teacher goes, "Whoa!" Just like jumps onto his desk like he was like about to cover somebody like a bodyguard, and then just grabs the remote and then just shuts the DVD player off.
Well, Bob, today I learned in religious school that,
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, this was a Christian school, by the way. So I've never seen a teacher jump the way that guy did. Like he literally, he almost flew from one side of the one side of the room to another, and it was like if you've seen it in slow motion, it's even funnier. But
An anime jump. Whoa.
exactly.
Slow motion, I think it's like that one scene from The Simpsons where Apu jumps out in the middle of the way as a robber to protect one of the his employees.
Oh yeah, that meme where he's trying to save James Woods.
Yes.
No, I was thinking more of the Simpsons episode where Flanders tries to baptize Homer's kids, and so like they get there and he's running. He's like, no, and like Homer gets the holy water put on him. He's like, la, la, la. And he's like the creature from the Black Lagoon, and he's like, nah.
Then he started acting religious for like 5 minutes.
He goes, "Hi, John. Long time no see. How you doing, dude?"
John, where the fuck you been? I was wondering what happened to you.
No worries.
So let's get to this like teacher thing.
Well, I think Sylph's still trying to find the story.
Oh no, I'm writing it.
Oh, you found it? Well, whenever you're ready, Sylph.
I wrote it down too, but I'm also gonna link it.
Okay.
Are we gonna read the article out?
Oh, I think that where? Oh, this is a Reddit thing.
Oh.
All right. Okay, so let me
It's not
see.
fucked that people are trying to like stand up for the teacher too. It's like, no, like this woman is bigger than this kid. There's other ways to de-escalate a situation than slamming a kid down and then screaming in his face and putting your hands in his face. Like,
That kid's
Oh.
gonna have psychological problems.
Oh, this was
This teacher.
and this was a black kid too.
Oh
and
no.
she's trying to suggest that like domestic violence
hell?
occurs in the household. So
Yeah, so we basically had a Karen. Oh, and this is a room full of black kids too. So this is not just
Oh,
like
That's even worse.
this is not an instance. This is not an instance where it's just like one black kid that she's going after. She's teaching an entire classroom full of black kids because I'm looking at all the kids. They're all black, and she's talking to him, and she's just yelling in his face. And it's like how old are you? Like say it again. You're 11 years old. I was like, you are a
A
child.
child, and you shouldn't be screaming in his face like that.
Yeah, so okay, now that I got more of the context, this is definitely a situation where they're trying to protect the white woman from the criticism of the from the criticisms of like everybody that's supporting the kids. Because remember, this
Like
is
she slaps him too, but
yeah,
like,
which is
not
even
certain.
worse. Well, I mean, hey, basically got into basically got like grabbed him, which is already violence as it is.
like forced him down the chair.
Yes, and then forced him down. So that is like that's an abusive situation right here. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me how like they're trying to protect this teacher because obviously this is somebody that this is probably a school system that's trying to make sure that tries to make sure that white supremacy still stays intact in a sense. So I mean, this is embedded in the public school system for decades upon decades. So this is not anything new. There have been clips like this before, and in a lot of worse situations. And this is just another example of and I don't even know what state that this is in. If it's in a southern state or if it's in a red
I
state.
think it was in a southern state.
Okay, well then that's obviously more red, so they're obviously trying to protect the teacher in that instance because they don't want progression in that instance. So I mean, this is not this is obviously this should probably get more traction in terms of like people need to see this clip and there needs to be more outrage about this because like I was saying before, like during the pre-show, like the way that you prevent this teacher from just keeping her job is that you go to that school district and the next time that there's like this parent teachers meeting or there's like a conference that goes on, like go there with protest signs and make sure that you let them know that this is not acceptable because you get enough people in that community, they're going to have no choice but to listen to them. Unless, of course, they start calling the cops and trying to get them out of there. But then again, that's going to get news traction. And if that gets news traction, then everybody's going to be calling out the school district for then getting the cops involved. So I mean, and by the way, the people don't care if they get covered on the news like that, but there would be enough pressure for them to say, okay, we're gonna have to get rid of this teacher then, because like I said, you get enough people
Ashley
to protest.
Park Elementary School in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, well
and they put this bitch on paid leave, okay, guys?
That's technically
What the hell?
that's technically a battleground state. So right now, what they call battleground states are purple. So they don't really lean on one side or the other. So that's kind of a trickier situation. But North Carolina's been leaning more blue recently, but there also been some red tendencies also during the general. So it's kind of up in the air right now. But in this instance, like I was saying, you do protest, and if they do anything, then obviously the news will cover it. And if they cover it, then you put pressure on them in that instance. I mean, that's what people have to do in these instances. That's what people have to do in these instances. You call it out. You post it on like your social medias, whatever. You let people know about it. And you tell people this is not acceptable. And you make sure that you make sure that very prominent people with a lot of following also share this out, because then that will obviously get recognized more often. Because that's how you stop these things from happening, right? And because more conversations will be had about that, and then Especially since we have an election season coming up next year. That's going to be important. So, that's generally my thing. Yeah. I don't know if there was anything other than that, but
I think we're supposed to talk about somebody else.
okay. Okay, so all right. So I know we haven't talked about Mr. Beast, but I don't think we've ever done an episode entirely on him. But Mr. Beast is the most popular YouTuber out there. And what happened last week, or I think it was this week, can't remember. It was leading more towards the weekend, last weekend. But Mr. Beast is known for doing a lot of philanthropy. So he's basically the guy from the first game of the Great Ace Attorney. Yeah, one guy that killed the guy in the station wagon. But Mr. Beast is known for doing a lot of, let's say he likes to give money to people and iPads and likes to do food drives and all that. Yeah, obviously just likes to give people things and makes a lot of money doing that. But Mr. Beast recently did a video where he got like 1,000 blind people and got them an operation that cured their blindness. And obviously for those people that got their sight back, they were ecstatic and their family was ecstatic. And what he did was he had the people read a sign that they put up on like one of those, like when you go to the eye doctor, they put up that I don't know what they call it, but you know what I'm talking about. Like they put up the letters that you have to read. Yeah. But so what they did is, yeah, they do like the eye screening stuff. So they had them read what was on the eye screen, and it said, "Oh, you just got $100,000 or something." So all these families that got their all these people that got their eyesight back, Mr. Beast gave them 100,000, or basically a lot of money. I don't know. I can't remember the exact number of what they gave them, but all the people that got paid at the same time, and all the families were very happy that Mr. Beast did this. So people actually had a problem with this. Not the fact that he actually did this for them, but the fact that he filmed this and recorded this. Basically, this is exploiting people at their worst and making them do, and you know, building your own brand off of trying to help people. I mean, back in the day, like nowadays, it's unacceptable for you to record yourself giving money to poor people.
Right.
Like, if you try to give money to a homeless person and you filmed it, people would be like, no, you can't do that, because obviously you're taking advantage of these people and you're exploiting them for your own brand's sake.
But isn't that true, though?
What?
But isn't that true, though?
I mean, yes, it is. That's why we don't accept it nowadays. So it's right. So people are saying that is the equivalent of today. Like, oh, if you film yourself trying to, cure people's blindness and then giving them money for that, I mean, obviously people should have a problem with that. I mean, just not for the fact that you did the deed. Like, you can obviously do the deed for people. You just don't have to film it. I mean, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that if you just did it on your own without having the need for cameras and everything. But Mr. Beast is often somebody that likes to do this stuff. He likes to put himself on camera and showing place like, see, isn't it great that I'm helping these people that have no advantage, that are disadvantaged in life? Like, I remember he had a game show that he did, and whoever won the game show got $1 million. And it was this black guy. And then after the black guy won the money, they went to his house and to his neighborhood. And the black guy's telling everybody, like, yes, this is what my living situation is like. My wife and I have to sleep on a mattress on the floor. My car doesn't work right. My house is dilapidated. It's got mold. It's, like, shabby and everything. And then Mr. Beast does this, like, oh, man, you live in such shit. I'm so glad you won the $1 million, dude. And there were not as many people discussing with that, but there were some people that took a look at that and said, wow, you're basically taking advantage of this guy's livelihood and exposing it for your own benefit to show you what a great guy you are. That's not really cool, dude. But I mean, it didn't get much traction as this whole blind people getting the operation thing did, and so there were some progressives who were actually happy that people were calling this out. And of course, there were some people that were like, "Oh, how is it that how is it that what Mr. Beast is doing is bad?" And we were like, "No, we're not saying it's bad that he's doing it. We're saying it's bad because he's got a savior complex going on, and
That's what I was thinking.
that's not cool." And there are people that are really struggling with this, to be quite honest. And I see this in progressive circles too. Like, there are people that just don't want to accept that there is such a thing as a savior complex. Like, they think just helping people is good enough, and it's really the only thing that we should really be worried about is the systems that allow these people to be living in this situations. Because let me tell you, America. The reason why that this was brought up also is that this surgery is not only very expensive, but in other countries you can basically get it for practically nothing, because like most European countries pay for this surgery with the welfare systems that they have in place. Like, they'll pay the surgery for you. You can practically get it for nothing, and most people that are blind in Europe can get this operation no problem. But in America, you have to pay over $100,000 to do this. By the way, Mr. Beast did not go into any detail at all about any of the stuff that I just said. Like, he'll just say like, "Oh yes, it's it's an expensive operation," but that's really all he said. He didn't go into like, why is it that we in America we can't afford this? What can we do? What can the American government do to really help so that people don't have to pay so much money for this? He didn't go into that at all. You know what he did? He mentioned it in like one little tweet afterwards when people were criticizing him. It was like, why our government needs to do more. It's like, okay, it's great that you said that in a tweet, but why couldn't you say that in the YouTube video? Most people are going to see the YouTube video more than they're going to see your tweet. So why didn't you mention that before? Like, people criticized him for that as well. And then he gets upset because people are criticizing him for the fact that he exploited all these people. And by the way, the criticism that he's been getting has been minuscule. Like, it's not like it's not like the majority of America had a problem with this. It was just a significant portion on Twitter that are mostly progressive leaning, that have a problem with exploitation in general. And it's very small too. It's not like it's not like this was like I said, this was not like a big, huge thing. But again, Mr. Beast just noticed a little bit, like a teensy little bit of criticism, and he goes and he gets like triggered by it. And then the next thing after that is he puts a poll out that says, "Do you think that I should run for president?" Which, by the way, the majority of his fan base said, yes, you should run for president. Because the thing was, he said, like, "Oh, if I ever decide to run for president, I'm going to give away all of my money before I start my political campaign." Which also, by the way, is just like, dude, you're still going to make all that money back anyway. It's not like you're just going to give it all away and not make it back again. So
No, give it to me. I need it.
Yeah. And by the way, he didn't necessarily say what he was going to do with the money that he's giving away. Like, he just says, "I'm just going to give it away." But to who? To what? To where? To when? To why? To which? Like, there's no details about where that money's going. Also, he has no plan to run for president. He just says, "Oh, I just want to do what's great for the American people." Well, what is that? What does that mean? What does that mean? That's just a blanket statement. What does that mean? Like, do you have policies in place? Like, what is your plan over the next 4 years? What are you planning on doing if you become president? What's your plan for the next 4 years? Like, do you even have a plan? Do you even know how the system works? Do you even know these things? Do you just want to run for president because you want to be a big-time guy? I mean, it's no secret that he's it's no secret that one of his big fan, he's a simp for Elon Musk. That's number one. Number two is that he also got caught in a pump and dump scheme for a crypto scam that was going on by this guy named Gary Vee, who's like one of those big hustle culture guys that basically tells you to work 23 hours in a day and only get an hour of sleep because you have to work hard in order to make it. even though that guy basically had a dad who owned a wine company and passed it off to him. So he was already a millionaire. But so yeah, he was like, "Oh my god, like there's a lot of," so he started getting involved in the crypto thing, and he doesn't even know how taxes work. So there was like a thing where, you know, he hasn't even released his tax forms or anything, and then that's like a whole situation right there. That, I mean, because since he hasn't released it, we can't really go into it. But yeah, if you're rich, like, you got to tell us how you're paying your taxes and everything. Yeah, he is too young, Sylph. Like, I mean, in America, you have to be 35 in order to start running for president. So he's planning on giving himself 11 years before he can even do that stuff. Like, most people don't.
President next year.
Most people don't realize that Mr. Beast became popular because he listened to a specific Jake Paul song 100 times.
Ew.
What?
Yeah. Like, that's how he became popular in the beginning. Like, he was listening to the same Jake Paul song 100 times because he knew that the algorithm would pick that up and he would start getting views that way. So Mr. Beast was able eventually to take advantage of the algorithm by just doing things that would trigger the algorithm in his favor. So that's how he made his thing. And I think he also did like reaction videos also. Like, that's before he became this big philanthropist that just wants to help people. Now, I have no doubt that Mr. Beast is somebody that does genuinely want to help people, but there's also this narcissistic behavior that goes behind that as well. Like, you're doing it for the sole purpose of trying to make yourself enriched, and you're trying to build a brand off of that so you can keep doing more stuff to make people think like, oh, what a nice guy that he is, that he does that. And by the way, that's what most people say about him. It's like, but he's such a nice guy. Why are you criticizing somebody that actually helps people? Not realizing, of course, that there's a whole exploitation thing behind it. But people don't really, I mean, if you really ask people, they don't really think that exploitation exists. They think that that's like a phrase or a word that just progressives came up with a few years ago to attack people that they don't like. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, from what I understand. Like, we're still at a point right now where people just need to get that. They need to understand that. And this is going to be part of culture for a while, where like people are going to have to, you know, people are just going to have to accept the fact that they're the people that they admire or the people that they idolize. Yeah, a lot of times when they do charity, which, by the way, also, charity is one of these things that people don't realize that can also be exploitation as well, because that's a way to be like, oh, hey, see what I'm doing? I'm doing all these great stuff for it. It's like, yes, but there are things that the government can be doing that can actually do a lot more beneficial things, and it's true. If we had a bigger welfare state, they can do a lot more things than charity can. But that's the other thing about conservatives. They need charity in order to make people think that they're good. That's the other thing too. So there's a lot of intricacies that we need to still go through in our culture today. People are just not on the good receiving end of it, and it's problematic. And it's going to take a while for people to understand that. So,
I'm just getting tired of culture.
Well, I mean, you mean status quo culture? Then yes, we can change that definitely, and it will, It's yes, Peach won, by the way, on her own board.
Oh, stop trying to slap me.
Hi, Elliot.
Elliot returns.
He's hiding in my closet, and now he's trying to slap me in the. Stop.
He's like, I get tired of this shit.
I know, you're a little cat and you got a little kitty attitude. You got a little catitude. Now stop.
You should dress him up as the Godfather for Halloween. God Kitty.
Oh, he hates costumes.
Which one? Marlon Brando or Al Pacino?
Brando.
Or Robert De Niro, because he played the younger version of Brando in part 2.
Yeah, we gotta do like Robert De Niro, because Elliot's still young. he can't be Brando yet.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, like, De Niro's old. What are you talking about? But then I realized you meant it in the context of the trilogy. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. We're not thinking modern times here, Joe. We're thinking about 1970s something logic, 80s logic.
Dude, come on.
Oh,
go
that you
somewhere else.
just crackled all the way there, Circus. I didn't understand what you were saying.
We're thinking about
Beautiful.
like when the movies were made, basically.
Oh, 70s. Well, at least the first two were. The one that the part 3 came out in 1990.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, like
Let me, you little man.
Francis Ford Coppola, the director of the Godfather movies, didn't even want to make the third one. What was it? I think it was Paramount. I think Paramount owns the Godfather, but they basically said like, no, we want you to do this movie. We're gonna force you to. So yeah,
Get off my desk now.
so even though like the third one is the worst, it's still pretty good. But it's just not on the level of 1 and 2, which, by the way, both won Best Picture Oscars. The third one was nominated, but they were just like, no, we think Kevin Costner directing himself to be naked in his own movie, that should win Best
I
Picture.
What?
Oh, yeah,
I
you
think
didn't,
just for the.
you didn't see Dances
What
with
the hell?
Wolves? Dances with Wolves
Oh
is
yeah.
Dances with Wolves is the original Avatar. Like Kevin
Yeah.
Costner directed himself as the Civil War soldier that has to go into this Native American village and basically pillage it. But then he falls in love with one of the Native American women and then directs him.
Technically, she was white. Was adopted
True,
into the name.
true. I forgot about that part. I only saw the movie one time, and that was in college. But basically, he directed himself having sex with the woman, and then there was also parts like in the
Pull
scenes.
a YSO before pulling a YSO was a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then also he directed himself being naked, trying to wage off a couple of Native Americans that were trying to attack his camp. Which, by the way, all the women in the audience were howling over his ass. And I'm not exaggerating. Like Kevin Costner was a sex god back in the 80s. So when this movie came out and they
Yeah.
saw his bare ass, they were like, "Oh my god, my fantasies are coming true."
Dude,
And-
you should have heard the fucking Twilight crowd when I went to go see
He-
New Moon.
Oh
Like,
God!
when-
How
You should
many
have heard,
lady
okay?
boners were there?
Luigi has
How many lady
fallen.
boners?
Okay. I'm sitting in the theater, and as soon as Jacob takes off his shirt, the one woman screams out, "Ah, thank God!" And you know, the whole fucking theater, and I mean the whole theater, burst out clapping, like, "Oh!" whistling and all that shit, just because this fucking guy took his shirt off.
Wasn't he like also a minor?
Yes.
Yes! He's supposed to be a minor in that
Excuse me.
fucking film.
Mushy mushy, can I get Kara Sanson on the line, please?
It's like this woman looks like she's like in her 40s taking her daughter to see Twilight. Now, let me tell you, we went to a midnight screening, so everybody just
Hey,
midnight and all this shit. It's so
Okay,
funny,
miss,
man.
take a seat. All right, ma'am, take a seat, will ya?
I have never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been
I
in a
tried to revive that type of energy with like The Last of Us Part 2, but that was like so fucking stupid.
Have you seen the TV show?
No.
I heard the TV show is really good. It just
Yeah, really.
I know how bad it's gonna get with the second
back.
game, so I'm just like, ugh.
Well, I don't know. I think they also said like after the second game they're also going to develop their own story. So that whatever's not in the game will also be their own story, because in the show they actually have some characters that were not in the game but were based on characters in there, like one of the guys from like the main character from Park and Rec. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that show, but like the guy is like he has like he's gay and has a partner, but basically he's the guy that practically knows everything about having gourmet meals during a fucking zombie pandemic. and then his partner, I believe, is not as
Oh, Donkey Kong and Peach got hammered.
oh like oh
They got
so
hit with a hammer.
they got hammered in a coin game.
Thank you, Mr. Elf. And thank you.
But yeah, they will do the TV show version of that. And also, people are loving Pedro Pascal because now he's the new sex god now of 2023. Because I think Pedro is also in the Mandalorian. I think he plays the Mandalorian, and now he's playing in The Last of Us. And then they had him on Saturday Night Live playing Mario, like basically doing a Last of Us parody where it's like Mario Kart, but it's like him trying to go over trying to deliver Princess Peach to Rainbow Road. It's like, what happens if we crash? A man on a cloud with a fishing pole will save us. Oh, okay.
Lucky 2.
I started watching Breaking Bad on Netflix. So far, it's pretty good. Yeah, Breaking Bad is a good show. Nowadays, they're doing fun, like, comedy commercials with the two actors that are, like, the main characters of it, but yeah, whatever.
It became a meme.
Yeah. Well, no, like what was it? The Bryan Cranston throwing a pizza on the top of the roof. That became a meme, too. Yeah, Breaking Bad's pretty good. The spin-off show Better Call Saul is also good. Saul is the lawyer in Breaking Bad, but they made a show specifically for him that also got rave reviews. I have not seen it myself, but for what my friends tell me, like, yeah, Breaking Bad is basically Trevor's life in Grand Theft Auto 5. And if you want me to recommend TV shows to watch, well, I'll tell you what show not to watch. That 90s show. My parents were watching.
It's really that bad?
Oh, it's horrible. My parents have been watching it, and they're like, this is not funny. Like, they grew up in the 90s, and they're like, the jokes like they're trying to put into this is just horrible. Like,
Too much meta humor.
Yes, in a sense.
And too much snarky, like, characters.
And it plays and plus it's all the characters from that 70s show, except it's mostly the mom and dad from that show, but it's just like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis show up as cameos. And it's like, oh hey, remember these fantastic characters from that one show that you watched in the 90s?
Hyde? Did they not mention? Like, just ignore it, or
I don't know. I don't think my folks got to that episode yet. But from what I
know that the lady who played Donna's mom died.
Yeah.
Lori, the sister died.
Yeah. So
Betty White's gone.
Yeah. So they really can't do
anything
that.
about Hyde.
Yeah.
Probably for the best.
But all I know is the show is not good, according to my folks. Like, it's just boring. Like, it doesn't really do anything.
Format.
Oh, that's the worst thing a show can be. Boring.
Like, yeah, because it doesn't even really have any good 90s references either. Like, it's just like, oh, it just happens to take place in the 90s, but there's not really any...
So it's as bad as that 80s show.
Yes. Except they didn't have any Netflix backing them.
Yeah. And that 80s show was supposed to be about Eric's cousin.
Yeah, which didn't bowl over that well. I mean, the one Netflix show I will recommend is Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope is like a bank heist show, but the way the episodes are structured, like they're all randomized, so it doesn't go in linear order. So like the first and the last episode are practically set. Like, they don't get randomized there, but all the episodes in between, every time you go on Netflix, it randomizes. So you'll see things in different lights from all the characters before the bank heist begins. So, like a kaleidoscope. So it's a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. There's nothing really in February that I would recommend because there's nothing really good coming out in February. In terms of movies, I would recommend people see Megan, that movie that came out in January that's basically like a Chucky spinoff.
reboot. Reboot.
Well, no. There's a Chucky TV show. Megan is a spin-off, I believe, from what
What are you
from the
doing?
directors. But
I'm technically calling it a reboot because Chucky had a Child Play reboot. This is just a second reboot.
yeah, but Megan's really
girlfriend.
good. The reason why Megan's good is because it's a horror comedy. So like anytime like comedies like horror's mixed with comedy, that's like when it's really good. Because horror just on its own is just bad. Like
She's
I don't
in
know.
a sequel.
Yeah, of course, because the movie did really well, so I'm not surprised. And plus, the actress who plays Megan is really good.
I just thought it was because it was the dancing meme. That's all.
Well, I mean, if you make anything memeable, that's already a win. I mean, what was it? Pennywise dancing in It got them a sequel. But then again, the sequel didn't really do that well.
I went to go see it with my brother, my ex, and his girlfriend at the time. My brother's. It was so damn long. It was so long. My brother and his girlfriend had to go outside smoking in the middle of it. Everybody kept wondering when the hell it was in.
Yeah, like sometimes you just have to take things down. Like you can't just fit everything into a movie. Here's what I think happened. People saw all the Avengers movies and they thought, wow, people will sit through a 3-hour movie now because of what Avengers is doing. Let's follow that same formula. Let's pack everything in there and let's give people their money's worth. Let's treat this like it's a sporting event. And it doesn't work for every movie.
I'd rather sit
Feels
through
like-
Titanic again. At least I know
Feels
at the
like-
end Jack will die. Spoiler alert.
Almost feels like a cutscene from like one of JD's Daydreams from Scrubs.
Which, by the way, I mentioned on the pre-show on Wednesday that James Cameron actually actually remade the scene from Titanic when Jack drowned in the water. And it turns out, and James Cameron finally realized, oh, Jack could have actually gone on the boat with Rose. I fucked the complete ending up of my own movie. And oh yes,
Yeah, you killed him.
yes, you killed him for no reason, just so that you can have like a tragic ending, so you can appeal to more people. But even back then, even my own sister was like, she could have just made room for him. And
He's a rich, selfish, entitled bitch. That's why.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that Rose was the rich one, and then Jack was the poor one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were in an arranged marriage, but she ended up falling for Jack.
Falling in love with somebody you don't know. Yeah. Rich.
And it could have also been the situation because she didn't even want to get married anyway. So this was just like, I don't know what it's called, but this was like an outing for her just to get out of that whole thing. It's like, oh, there's an attractive man on this boat that I can just have my way with for a while.
Definitely a scapegoat.
Oh, The Hobbit. I never saw the Hobbit movies. From what my friend told me, the Hobbit movies are just not good. Even though they're prequels to Lord of the Rings, they're just not as good. They're just not as good as Lord of the Rings.
I went to see the one in theaters with the dragon in it. My God, it was so long.
Oh, Mr. L, you brought up Hogwarts Legacy. Okay.
I don't know what the hell that is. I haven't checked it out. What the
Harry
hell is
Potter game, which the series run by a turf
Yeah.
who's also been setting millions for kind of some fucked up organizations.
Yes. And by the way, in the UK, she's considered a liberal by their political standards. So, over here in America, she would be considered a conservative, but over there, she's actually more liberal, if that makes any sense. Because it's weird. Like, some political ideologies are different in different countries. So, in a lot of their cases, TERFs are actually liberal in the UK, which is really weird. Considering over here we would call them that.
Fucking weird.
But no, the game. But then again, the game is. Yeah, a lot of trans people have been saying don't buy the game, like just don't do it. And then of course that pissed off some streamers that wanted to play the game. And basically what happened was there was a live streamer that has a huge following that says, you know what, I'm not going to buy this game because I don't want to get bullied by my fans, because this is bullying. You telling me that I shouldn't play a game?
Shut the fuck up, you dumb bitch. Oh, sorry, that slipped out.
No, that's the reaction that a lot of other people had.
It's like tiny violin.
And there were other progressives that were backing this, saying like, shut up, like let us have our fun, like this is not what progressives need to be doing at this time. And everyone just like has that same reaction that Sylph had.
There's also the anti-Semitic problems too.
Yes, that
Yes.
too.
They literally took like I forget the name of it, but it's like this important piece of Jewish religion. It's supposed to be for like ceremonies, like not, and like they're saying, oh, it's a battle horn. It's not. It's supposed to be for peaceful religious settings.
And even then, during
like
the
how
movie,
Hitler turned a peaceful Buddhist symbol into a hate symbol.
yeah, it was the swastika was appropriated. There's like, what was it? The like even then during the movies, like people thought it's like, oh, the goblins, like they are representing of like Jews owning all the money. That's an anti-Semitic trope right there. Like, because the whole thing is like, oh, the Jews control all the world's money. Like that's the most anti-Semitic thing that you can say. And of course, like she puts them as the goblins in the movie, and of course the goblins have like very Jewish stereotype looking.
There's also the slave thing that they put with the elves, where
yes,
they're
too.
happy being slaves. Don't try and do anything to help them.
Even though Harry,
even though they don't.
And the only one who ever got freed was killed in the last book.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Harry didn't like him because he was like, you're basically ruining my life by trying to get me away from there. He's like, I'm still going to save you because I feel like you're being mistreated. But even then, it's like, well, we're just going to kill him off. By the way, didn't even get mentioned in the fourth book, because in Goblet of Fire, like, Dobby makes an appearance, but the movie just completely took him out of it.
Yeah, the movie's cut out a lot of things.
Yeah. And if it ever got made into a TV series, I don't think it's going to be accepted. I know by BBC standards, they would probably do it in the UK, but here in the States, they'd be like, no, we're not touching this. Because right now, what was it? I think in Universal Orlando, and I think I made this joke like 2 years ago, but it was like Nintendo Land was going to be taking down all the Wizarding World of Harry Potter stuff. And Mario's just gonna come in with his hammers like, well, look whose castle is getting taken down now, motherfucker.
I remember that.
From the giant dragon that they have into what was that thing's name? Hooktail?
Yes, Hooktail. I was like, oh, did you like to see my friend Hooktail? Here's one dragon that you're not going to beat, motherfucker. I say you beat the dragon in Goblet of Fire, but you don't even know this dragon's weakness. He's invincible, but I know his weakness. Or I should say she, because it's a she. I didn't know it was a she until you get to the final chapter in Dowsing Your Door when you meet his big brother. Oh, she has a big brother too called Gloomtail, and then there's the Skulltail, the fucking skeleton. You want to take down all those 3 dragons, Harry? Good luck. You're going to need it.
I don't even remember him fighting them, just taking an egg.
Well, he tried to not fight it, tried to just take the eggs. Like, but Mario, I wasn't even trying to fight dragons, I was trying to get the eggs. Like, hey, what, so you could just make an entire omelet? Because that's what you British are known for, just turning eggs into omelets. You're only good at making eggs. I mean, what is British cuisine anyway? You have nothing over there.
I ain't talking.
Like hash browns?
I remember someone doing a YouTube short where like they pointed out how like all the food is incredibly bland, and then all of a sudden we're like, hey, notice they put all the Asian people in Ravenclaw? What's up with that?
Oh yeah, right. Like, oh yeah, like, and Harry couldn't even have an Asian girlfriend.
Oh gosh, they did her dirty.
Yeah, they did. That's like, nah, you're
It was
not
even
good.
worse in the books.
Like, you're not
It's
even
like,
good enough.
she was understandably traumatized by what happened, and like I guess she would. The way they wrote her is that she wanted to know if like he was thinking of her. And then
Yeah.
I guess the equivalent was Harry going, "Oh no, she died. He died horribly. He didn't get a chance to say anything.
Jeez.
He was murdered." A lot of the characters were really unhinged in the books.
Yeah, which really goes to show just like her writing in general. Like, a lot of people missed it back then. Like, they didn't really want to question it because if you
It was targeted towards kids.
if you went against it, then it was considered the equivalent of murdering somebody. You couldn't criticize Harry Potter back then, and even then, we didn't really
You know what's even
criticize
worse?
it.
She made a book about how she was beaten by like critics.
It's like, oh, these poor critics, they're trying to attack my work. It's like, yes, that's what critics are supposed to do. They critique art. If the art is bad, they will critique it. Like that, and even the actors don't want her around anymore. Like, even then, when they did the 20th anniversary special, they just said, fuck her. We don't even want her involved in the, like, they barely even mentioned her, too. They Daniel,
Cliff,
Emma, and,
Eric Dawson,
and
Rupert Grint.
yeah, and Rupert, they were just like, yeah, no, we'll talk more about Alan Rickman and Maggie before we'd ever talk about JK. Like, even they were just
We
like,
love
fuck.
Alan.
Oh yeah, they were just like, fuck her. Like, we'll talk about Michael more than anything. We'll talk about him before that. Like, even they said Ray Fiennes, and Ray Fiennes is like one of the best actors ever. But it was
Ralph.
like,
Oh wait, it's Ray.
yeah, it's
Not
pronounced Ray.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's weird. Like, he goes by Ray Fiennes, not Ralph. But yeah, no, everybody loved him when he was on set. Like all those guys love each other. Like, I remember seeing like a picture of Dumbledore, like Michael Gambon, Daniel Radcliffe, and Ray Fiennes, like before they were shooting the big epic scene at the end of the fifth movie, and they were all just hanging out together, and they were just like, oh man, it's so good just hanging out with each other and everything.
I remember seeing the picture of them like crying in their last
Yeah.
scenes together.
Yeah, I mean, they really didn't. Well, first of all, I do know that they really wanted the series to end because they really did not want to continue being Harry Potter characters. They did not want that put on their careers. I mean, I know what was it? Daniel went on to be Weird Al, so I know he was happy to do that shit.
Yeah, he's in a
Rupert
TV
Grint
series.
bought an
called-
ice cream truck,
He did.
so
he
he's
did.
off living his. Yeah, I think he has the kids too. Hold on,
Yeah,
I gotta check.
he's the one that has a family, and
Yeah, he
I,
has kids, he's still acting and all that junk.
I know that Emma and Daniel are jealous of him. It's like, you have the life that we wanted. We're stuck
Yeah, he
being
has a-
actors.
Wednesday. He has a child named Wednesday.
Yes, from the Addams
What?
Family. Basically, a reference to the Addams Family.
Yeah, I know. That's
Yeah, because what was it like? Oh yeah, I remember that Daniel Radcliffe played a dead guy for like the entire movie, and it's like,
yep, he still has the ice cream truck.
yeah, and Rupert Grint still has the ice cream truck.
I've been watching this TV show that Daniel Radcliffe is in called The Miracle Workers.
Yeah,
It's a good
that's
show.
a good show from what I understand. Like, yeah, it really brings out his acting ability. Yeah, because a lot of these guys, they want to be known as good actors. Like, even like Robbie Coltrane, who played Hagrid before he passed. I mean, everybody knew him as the Russian agent from James Bond for years before he became Hagrid. I mean, he was known for other things, but if you grew up in the '90s, you knew him as like a James Bond guy. Like Michael Gambon, I know.
Was? Hold on, I'm looking this up.
Yeah. Yeah, he played, I think, was it Valentino in GoldenEye? And The World Is Not Enough. I know he was in both of those movies. Because I remember,
Yeah,
like...
I love Emma in like Perks of a Wallflower.
Yeah, Emma Watson, I know people won't forgive her for being in the Beauty and the Beast live action movie. That's...
I was trying
Butchered
not
the
to mention
dress.
that. You had to.
fucking butchered it.
It's not just that. I don't think she was even a good choice to play Belle, because she just plays her. She just plays her so bland. I mean, the Belle in the original movie was very personable and like had a love for books and just had a love for her father. And just had a love of people, but just people didn't understand her because they thought she was weird. In the live action, she's just boring, and she just doesn't really have any
Just has that
personality to her.
The Hermione face the whole
Yeah.
time.
I mean, Emma's not really the best actress out there in the world. I mean, that's why I don't really. I mean, they brought her, they got her in because like she's got a name and everyone will know who she is.
That's what I'm kind of scared of. What's going to happen to the new Little Mermaid film? Like, it's going to be fucking boring as hell.
I don't think so. Just because of the actress that they got to play Ariel, like she can sing and she can sing really well.
She can't really sing, but
But how far can the good singing carry the
exactly. That's what I
like
was
for
about to say.
example, like the rest of it, and like especially the dark like the dark color palette they used.
Well, when it comes to Disney, the only thing that they care about is whether or not it will get them enough to be number one in the box office.
Care
Like
about money and cutting corners.
exactly. Here's the thing too about VFX, like visual effects. They're the only department in Hollywood that does not have a union. So that's why the quality of visual effects is horrible, because visual effects workers can't advocate to get better pay and to work less hours. So they're at the mercy of all of the companies that they work for. Every other department in Hollywood has a union: writers, producers, directors, costume designers, sound designers. Visual effects, they don't have one, because visual effects came out in the 80s, and Ronald Reagan, when he was president, he put an end to new departments getting unionized right away. So if you want someone to blame for why visual effects are bad in movies, blame Ronald Reagan, the guy who used to be an actor, who played with a monkey in one of his movies. So there you go. That's your reason for why visual effects are bad. You can blame Ronald Reagan for that. And they will cut corners with visual effects because they know that they can get away with it. But I have no doubt that the Little Mermaid's gonna do great in the box office, just because of who's playing Ariel and the fact that it's the Little Mermaid itself. Like, people will just go see it just because of the name of the title and everything.
I don't think I will.
I know you won't, but the rest of America probably will. And then, of course, you have to also take in China, too, because China is the one country that brings in the most profit for Disney. I mean, that's why the Transformers movies kept getting made, because everybody in China went to go see the films. So, people in America did want to see the movies, but because they got so big in China, they were like, well, we got to do it for China's sake, so... Well, no, Strange World didn't work was because the advertising just didn't. The advertising
They were
did.
homophobic.
Well, that too, and the advertising wasn't what it was. Didn't turn out the way it was. The advertising didn't really describe the movie that they wanted to make, if that's the best way that I can say it. It wasn't even woke at all, from what I understand. It was actually pretty bad.
Apparently, they're making a Toy Story 5 now.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you feel about this one. They can't fucking decide what they're going to close on.
Wait, did you say they can't decide what their clothes on?
You know, the closing ending on the fucking trilogy or series.
Oh, I thought you said they couldn't make decisions because they were naked. I was like, what?
No,
Where are you going with this, Circus?
Where the hell are you going with this?
What did I miss?
Joe mishearing things I'm saying again.
And then you walking in on it.
I was closing my closet up.
Basically, like, they given two endings for Toy Story between 4 and 3. Now they're going to bring another. Okay, how are they going to make this work? Woody's already separated from the group. What the hell?
And Tim Allen's no longer playing Buzz because everybody's just like, we don't want you anymore. So they're gonna get Chris Evans to play him probably. But no, Toy Story is a cash cow for them now after 4 came out. So they decided
Exactly.
that. Look, you have to understand something about these major companies. There is no longer a thing as retirement, and there's no longer such a thing as ending brands. Like once a franchise is popular, they're gonna keep going until the end of time. It used to be like as an artist, you would stop something after you're done with it, like Danganronpa, for example. Danganronpa, they're not making a 4th game, so the creators just decided we're done with this. We made 3. 3 is all we're doing, and we're not moving anymore. And if they wanted to, and if Spike wants to do it on their own, fuck them. We're not giving them the satisfaction of it. Disney, on the other hand, is like, oh my god, we made so much money. We made so much money out of this that we're just going to continue the series until the end of time. Even if Tom Hanks dies, we'll just get somebody to replace him. We'll get his brother Jim to do the voice if he's still around.
Hell, Jim's already doing the voice of Woody when it comes to the toys.
Yeah, and when it comes to like the video games and that one Buzz Lightyear VHS that he was in for like the first few minutes.
Ugh.
And
I just remember the good old days when I went to go see the first Toy Story in theaters. That was amazing. I didn't know it turned into a shit show.
Well, you have to understand something. Like, Disney now realizes that, like, the only way that they're going to make their revenue is by keeping these franchises going. Because back then, they didn't really have any franchises at that time. And Hollywood wasn't big on franchises at all. Like, if you made a sequel back then, it was considered sacrilege unless it was, like, Godfather. Like, if you made a sequel, it was a guarantee to fail. Now, because of Marvel, because of Disney, and the Marvel formula, you now have to do sequel upon sequel upon sequel in order to make your revenue now.
Comic formula.
It is. Although comic books are better than the movies. Comic books, they're more artistic and they're more progressive in that instance. That's why Hollywood has a trouble getting into the anime market and the manga market and then making movies off of them, because if you realize it or not, manga is incredibly progressive with their storylines. And then Hollywood tries to make it more conservative in a sense, like the way that the MCU is, and they just don't work. They just don't work. So
Too much
It
white
has a
wash.
bunch of categories for genres. Like manga is just the umbrella term.
yeah, exactly. But they try to also and they also want to brand, and they also try to want to brand it as like an American concept, but it doesn't work. I, for one, welcome our new Mickey Mouse overlords. Obviously, making a Simpsons joke, Mr. L.
That wasn't Futurama?
No, it was also like a Ken Brockman thing. It's like, I, for one, welcome our new overlords. Except he just put Mickey Mouse in there.
Well, it comes from the same guy, so there you go.
Yeah, you want to know how to stop Disney? Like I was saying like a few hours ago, antitrust laws. That way Disney gets broken up. That's why and then they have to be forced to go back into doing like quality content, because their business model now is quantity over quality. You don't necessarily need to have the best movie. All you have to do is have one that's commercialized enough to make them enough revenue. And
Fucking Walt Disney is rolling in his fucking grave as we speak.
no, even Walt Disney did that at the time. You know, he made Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to make a profit. Like, he didn't, I mean, sure, there were artists that he had working for him that wanted to make a great animated movie, but Disney was in it solely for the profit motive, because he realized if I can make a full-length feature animated movie, I'll be the only one in the market that can do that. And if I'm the only one in the market doing that, I'll make a fortune. Like, Disney was a businessman through and through. So the Disney executives now are doing exactly what Disney's did back then. It's just people just didn't see him for who he was. They didn't see what he was behind the camera.
Oh.
No, they went after Donkey Kong, who's trying to provide for his family, by the way, on the island.
Oh, you missed it. They kept throwing it back to Peach.
Oh, yeah.
Oh!
And then the bomb blew up.
Donkey.
Yeah, and then they blew it up in DK's face.
No one puts Donkey in a corner.
Well, here's the thing also about manga, too. You want to know why conservatives love manga so much as well? It's because they like Japan. The concept of Japan they love. And the reason why they love the concept of Japan is because it's homogenized. There's like 98% Japanese there, and there's no other group of people there. So it's like, oh man, if only we could be like Japan. And then they look at manga, and instead of looking at these stories as progressive storytelling, they look at them and they're like, oh my god, these muscled out men and these sexy women, and oh my god, if only we could be like that. And that's all they see. They only see things on a base level. They can't see things on a subtle level. Yes. Speaking of that, do you want a Kevin update?
Yes.
Yes. We've been waiting for one.
Well, let me see if I can find one. I don't even know if there is any updates.
Come on, Kev.
Oh, Kevin went to go have some Indian food.
I hope he shit it all out in his spicy butthole.
Oh, he's excited about Part 9 coming out.
Ah.
Oh,
Elliot was gonna throw up on my bed.
oh my god.
Oh, no.
Aw.
Even can't stand.
He's okay, I think.
Okay, he posted this meme of Wolverine from X-Men, like getting close to what's that X-Men character's name that was all blue that could shapeshift?
I know what you're
Who?
talking about. I just can't remember the name.
Mystique.
Mystique. So it shows like Wolverine and Mystique very close, and Mystique's mouth looks like it's open, like in an O face. And then the next picture, it shows Wolverine's fingers, and only the middle finger is blue. If you get the drift. Okay,
He stabbed a Smurf.
Well, no, and
I
it
know
also
what the joke actually was.
okay. Yeah, now he's showing Cockwing getting horny with some MILF.
We need to take the internet away from Kevin.
Take away the router.
Yes. Just leave the laptop. No,
Get the axe ready.
Get
Get the axe ready.
You okay? Snowflake.
How the hell is that inappropriate? Because you used the word sexy? God. I'd approve Mr. L's last comment.
Oh, and he also got very excited over the new One Piece live action Netflix show, and he was happy
God damn it.
And he's also happy that Luffy was naked, showing his big ball sack.
Ah!
Excuse me?
Excuse me.
Yeah, take a look at the new Netflix poster of One Piece. It actually it's a silhouette of Luffy naked, and he's got big balls. And
I didn't even know that.
And Kevin's happy about that.
Why, Kevin? You're a straight male. Why are you happy about another guy's balls sticking out?
Oh, dude, that's not cool.
Because it's Luffy. That's why.
Bro.
Oh, now he's...
And I literally just fell off the bed because of that.
And he also posted this meme of a person sticking their middle finger up a faucet, like one of those hose faucets. And he's like, little did I know that I was actually training for the future.
No, you're
Wrong,
not.
Kevin.
Okay, and now he
That's it. Where's Bob? Where's Bob? He needs to cut down the internet now.
Yeah.
Wait, did people not know about this Netflix poster that got controversy over the fact that he was like? Did people? I'm looking at chat. I'm like, John didn't know.
Heard about it. I guess link it on the Discord.
I haven't seen it because I really don't pay attention to a lot of anime lately.
I'm surprised.
I do. It's a spare.
I'm just surprised that chat didn't know. I thought they were like, oh, One Piece and like all this. But
Was it
no.
inspired by that one meme where it showed like the naked guy?
Yes. But it's in silhouette. But it shows like
You
the
might
sun.
wanna-
It shows the sunset behind him, and it's a silhouette.
Sylph, you're probably gonna have to find that for us.
No,
I'm
why
kinda
subject
scared to look it up.
why subject Sylph to
Like I'm gonna
that?
have, I'm gonna have to like burn my computer to get rid of the history.
Circus, why would you set up Sylph like that? Sylph doesn't need to see that.
Mean.
Okay.
You're
None
also
of us are
looking for
gonna
the
do that.
picture. Or no, is looking for picture. I'm trying to earn shit on Twitch for marbles on stream.
All right, the next one is like that's like the Velma show we all need, and it's basically Bucciarati as Velma, and all the other
God,
JoJo
no.
all the JoJo Part 5 characters as Scooby Doo characters.
Isn't
Bro.
that like the worst rated cartoon on IMDb right now?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, it has a
John, you're right.
1.4 out
Kevin
of
is
10.
special specimen. We've been studying him for a year now, and he still amazes us.
Okay, and now he posted this meme where it says, "The best part about doing dishes is drinking the leftover cocktail juices, so moist and chunky."
Ew.
And now this next meme, our good
This
dry
bullshit.
and then the next meme he posts, "A good dry rub enhances our meat. Stop laughing."
Suddenly I feel sexually violated by that post.
Me too.
And now the next meme, it's basically an anime, and the subtitle says, "Is that the click Oris?" And it shows like a person trying to put his finger into like the little keyhole.
Now I feel violated.
Is there any way I can file a lawsuit against Kevin?
And then he also posted a meme about getting a vibrator, but the end of the vibrator is basically the head of Hellraiser.
You mean, Pinhead?
Yes, Pinhead. That's what I mean.
Oh, Lord.
I feel like we need some kind of palate cleanser after that.
Yes,
Still.
please.
Still, find kitties now. Kitty
Yeah.
stories.
Oh crap, hold on, don't click on that. I didn't realize it was gonna send as a file, not what it should have sent as.
This next one is like, "I like her so much. I just want to feed her grapes and brush her hair."
With.
And then he says,
I think I have something cute to share.
You can always go for a Reddit story if you like.
Yeah, please. Something.
What? Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find.
See, look, see what you've done to us, chat. See how much torture me and Mooney has to go through.
"Yeah, that's really it."
What do you guys think of shooting down the Chinese spy balloon? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't watch the
Oh,
news.
there was a weather balloon that China had over Montana, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, the Chinese have a weather balloon!" Not realizing, of course, that the Chinese fly weather balloons over us all the time, and they even did it during the Trump years, but nobody complained about that. So now they're just like, "Oh, you got to shoot this down! You got to shoot this down now!" Because they want to start a war with China. That's the main reason.
Guys, stop trying to start wars. We need to focus on being together as, like, humans should be. Not fucking fighting each other, because we hate each other. We need to
Hey,
come
they're
together.
just. I know. I get you, but some people just like to watch the world burn.
They're called
I don't want my home exploding.
They called the dogs of war for a reason.
Yep.
Oh my
Where
God!
the hell are
I
you, Jesus, when we
Okay,
need
I
you?
found something that might be funny to end to.
didn't even realize we went 20 minutes over.
Holy shit.
Holy shit. And my earbuds are about ready to die.
Okay, maybe we should save
Oh, wait,
the
no,
story.
never mind. I can't read this one because it sounded funny by the title. It was Today I Effed Up by watching the old Thomas the Tank Engine intro.
What? The-
No, it's not what you think. It was a trigger for some traumatic injury, traumatic abuse.
okay.
Oof.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, chat. When we get the Discord up, we'll have a Thomas the Tank Engine night, so you get to see your dear old pal Circus to get tortured by our dear JoJo.
Hey, look, what's wrong with Ringo Starr? Okay, Ringo Starr was the best narrator. Okay, like
It's not Ringo, it's the fucking engines, the tank engines themselves. They're creepy looking.
I will change your mind by the end of the series.
Dude, I have to deal with fucking Thomas all the time because of my nephew. Come on.
And you'll have to deal with it with me because I love the show and the fucking
So-
music
Oh,
on
God.
that.
That's
Alright.
the deal I'll do. When we open the Discord, I will fucking have a fucking Thomas the Tank Engine night. So everybody can come and hear me groan
Well,
over it.
it won't be that big of a night though because we'll finish all the episodes in a matter of weeks.
Well, you know what I mean. We can do it like weekly.
I was
Just to get
thinking.
the
We're doing.
Well, we still gotta
Hello,
watch.
911. I got
still-
a report up on a circus abuse.
We
Yes.
gotta watch the Donkey Kong show too.
Yeah, but we start with Thomas, then we move into Donkey.
Okay, I can live with that.
And this is how I'm just trying to get the viewers in when we get the damn Discord open.
Yeah.
So they can come and see me get tortured.
No, we'll just have to make sure that they can only.
Ah, fuck.
We'll just
It's
have to
on-
make.
Ah, shit. It's already on 5%.
All right. Well, we'll call it a night here. Okay. Yeah, we'll figure out what we're gonna do next Friday, but Wednesday we're gonna continue with our Ace Attorney series, and then
Yeah,
Friday.
everybody better be there. Come on, we have fun.
Yeah, we have Divorce Court between Phoenix and Edgeworth. But yeah, we'll figure out what we're gonna do Friday, and then yeah, we'll see you all next week. So we're gonna close the laundromat now. We kept it open overtime, and now everybody's gonna have to get some overtime
Get
pay.
the hell
so,
out of our laundromat.
so, well, you ain't gotta go home, but you can't do here. Well, yeah, we're gonna do the classic seasons of Thomas and Friends. All right.
Yeah.
So bye everybody. We'll catch you all next week.
Oh,
Enjoy
man,
yourselves.
the square.
Enjoy the Super Bowl if you're watching it, and if you're doing mac and cheese day, we'll have some mac and cheese.